Okay, good afternoon, finish time, everyone. I'm happy to welcome today Mr. Luis Ayala, which is CEO of Learntags. Learntags is a partner of OBF Factory in South America, in Guatemala, or Latin America, sorry, Guatemala. And Luis will tell you today about some case about where OpenBash Factory have been used for professional skill certifications in Latin America. So please, Luis, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Eric. Hi, my name is Luis. I'll be introducing you today to the case when we used OpenBatch Factory as a professional certification platform, right, in Guatemala. So I'm going to start, let me see. All right, here I am. Perfect. So for those of you wondering, this is where Guatemala is. Very, very tiny country, right? We're right in the middle of the Americas. So it is a very special place because we are in basically the time zone that it's almost appropriate to connect with many, many people around the world, which is why you're at about 4 o'clock in Finland. We're at 8 a.m. in the morning in Guatemala. So it's a very, very interesting moment of time. We can accommodate many of the time zones within Latin America. We're about within 3 hours. We can serve every country in Latin America. So that gives us a unique way of working with our customers, and we can serve them very promptly. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction of our market and how we came up to our solution. We have a very young population in Guatemala, very, very young. About 60% are economically active. But the interesting thing is that where is people economically active and where are they economically employed and how are they trained? All of these ideas influence the design of the case and the design of the solution that we finally implemented with OpenBatch Factory. So I think this is the slide where it shows why that drove the idea of the partnership we took with a local training partner in Guatemala. This is about the enrollment of population in educational institutions. So as you can see, it picks up at primary, right? And then it lowers down. But it lowers so much down that for people aged 20 to 29, only 10%, about only 10% go to university, right? Which leads us to a very basic workforce, right? Very, very basic workforce, which need some more training. And we were looking for alternatives to traditional education, alternatives to traditional certification, right? Because there are so many of these groups that are unserved by education that we wanted to address that thing, right? And if we go into a little bit more detail of this by industry sector, it becomes a little bit even more worrisome, right? So Guatemala's employment, it's mostly agriculture, right? We are a very, very agricultural country, and informality, it's very, very, very large also, right? Commerce, it's our activity. So many markets, many, of course, to serve the people. But it's what we're trying to address as a company and with our partners is to go to the very first, to the top part of this graphic, right? Where we have more professionals, more activities and services, and trying to shift a little bit of the population to employment where they can be served by more educated and very prepared workforce.
Excuse
So,
me, Luis,
yes.
are you showing the same slide all the time, or do you show other slides that we don't see? Because we can see only the first slide.
Oh, I have moved. Didn't it move? Yeah, I'm almost on the third or fourth.
Ah, so there
Let me
is.
see.
Can you try to move it, or perhaps to show it in another mode, because perhaps it's not moving.
Let me see. Sure.
I was not sure that.
I think I found it. Now
Okay.
can you see? That's
we can see the camera. Good. And then.
Oh, sorry. So I'm gonna go briefly. But yeah, so that's where we are. That's Guatemala. Yeah, already gone through the idea. And this is the pyramid of the workforce. Sorry for that. Right. This is what I was explaining about where the workforce is. Yeah.
We don't see the pyramid. We just see not yet the pyramid. We just see the globe now.
The globe.
Yes, you have to move perhaps one step more.
Okay.
It's in the other side. I think it's in left side.
Can you see the bars now?
You can see the bar in the left down side. So it's not you are on the right side in the just near the globe. There is a bar.
Let me see.
In the bottom. You were quite near, so I could see something there. Can you see my? Yeah, just here. I can see something here.
Let me see again. Share. It should be. It's the PowerPoint.
What you could do is stop sharing and take it
and then
again.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then if you take it again, and perhaps sometimes if it's a PowerPoint, sometimes the easiest way is to make it not in a presentation stage, but in this edit stage.
Oh, okay. Let me check.
It's easier. And now we can see
the bars. But let me see if I move one.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Do we have the horizontal bars now?
I can see that you have, yeah. If you click it, I don't know how it will work.
Let me see. You have a green background now?
No. So we have this slide.
I will move to the PowerPoint in edit mode. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
To take it on the edit.
Yes. Oh, hold on. Put it here. All right, share.
With technology, you never know.
Okay.
Yeah, now it looks good. Yeah, now you can.
Now it looks good.
Yeah. Okay.
Now it looks okay. That's better. Okay. Sorry. So I was talking about how can we serve a workforce that requires more skills through shorter educational cycles, right? That's the important thing, shorter cycles. And to have a way of understanding and leveling the workforce, right? That's the important thing that we're looking for. So we ended up with a couple of questions of our own to see how can we help this, right? And this was, how can we help hiring firms to identify talent since there were so few trained people, right? And how can we help that people validate their knowledge so that the hiring firms can be able to identify that talent, right? So we joined our effort with a local university, right, called Universidad Galileo, that has a branch for doing continuous education, that it's called CES Guatemala, and that's who we work with. And we came up with the solution. They wanted to use the 21st century skills, right? They had a framework that they used based on the 21st century learning design by Microsoft and their partners. They created this whole scheme about basic skills for the training workforce, and that's where we wanted to move with our platform and our solution, right?
Yeah.
So the important thing here.
Sorry. Now we can see the slides number 6, but we don't see the 7. I think you have to click the 7 if you want that we see.
Okay. Okay.
Slide number 7. Yeah. Okay. Now we see. Good.
Okay. So the idea was to go through these skills, to take this framework and implement it in a way that it could be trained very quickly. People could get trained very quickly, and also get specific certifications for very basic skills that will add up to these greater things. So at the OBF, the Open Batch Factory, we created this 6 that you can see here. We created them as milestone badges, right? From the literature, they refer to them as meta badges. They sell them as meta badges. Just pretty much works the same, that all of the lower level badges add up until you get your milestone badge. So we ended up with a solution with 6 milestone badges, right? And those 6 milestone badges had like individual and more detailed skills that the workforce could prepare and work on, right? So we were moving to the model that we wanted to implement and that we found appealing for this particular case is to separate the training from certification, right? So traditional educational institutions do both, right? Let's say universities, they do train and they do the certification at the end. But at these very granular and very, very specific skills, we wanted to separate that so that the hiring professional can see that, all right, it's not only that they took a course, they also got the certification, right? And we use the Open Batch platform, the Open Batch Factory platform, because it allowed us to expose the evidences that the different people, when they apply, they can, we can get the evidences and expose the evidences to the public. So the idea is the hiring human resource professional, if they have, let's say it's a communication skill match, they can go in and see the actual person presenting, right? The actual person doing the thing that they say they're very good at doing, right? So that was the value that we wanted to promote by using the platform. So we partnered and we separated these two things. So the idea that our brand, Learntags, will give the verification, the validation through the Open Batch Factory platform, and says the company that is the continuous education company of the university in Guatemala will provide the training, right? So we created this that is basically taking the idea of the 21st century skill certification platform from Microsoft, and we created our own version specific for our Guatemalan environment, right? So we had the 6 meta badges, so we call them meta badges, that are implemented in OBF as milestone badges, right?
We don't see, sorry to interrupt, we don't see it. Is it the slide number 10?
It's slide number 10, yes.
I think that you have to click it because it's not displaying. So you have to go to the slide and to click it at least 2 times. Can you see it on your?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it there?
No, it's on the. We can see it from the left, you know, and just have to go on the slide number 10 and to click it at least 1 or 2 times. Now here you are on the number 8.
All right. Okay. Let me see.
This is number 7. Yeah. Yeah. Now the 10. If you click it now, the 10.
Yeah, I clicked it.
Now we can see the 9. The 9th. You need to go one more.
Okay.
No,
This one.
this one, yeah. We still see the Learntags CSC.
CSG.
Now we see, yeah, okay.
Okay, perfect. So so CSG is doing the training, and they are the ones that are actually promoting the training on the specific skills, right? And the idea that we will go through the validation process using the Open Batch Factory platform. Each of these that you can see here, we can see 6 skills. These are obviously the labels are in Spanish, but the first one is knowledge, about knowledge. The second is about self-regulation. So each of these will go and have a list of very, very specific skills that are the actual courses that people do take, right? Courses are about between 14 to 20 hours, right? On a very workshop-oriented environment, small groups, workshop environment, and they span about for 3 weeks, and they require the participants to produce different evidences that at the end they can actually use for applying to the bench, right? So let me show you an example here. And can you verify if we can see number 11?
Not yet, but if you click it, yeah. Now you need to click it. You are on it now. Just click.
Yes. No, I already clicked it, but
okay. So it's perhaps coming a bit late. It can be
okay.
Slow, but we don't see it. No, it's not refreshing. Yeah. Now it can. Yeah.
Okay. So this is an example. Self-regulation, right? So they will have like very small 14 hours of training for each of these individual ones. They can take a workshop on productivity, a workshop on self-leadership, a workshop on discipline, self-discipline, or emotional intelligence, right? And we created a system where, independently of how many badges they have, they need to have at least 3, right? So they have to get 3 badges in order to get their milestone badge, right? Okay. So most of them have at least 4, right? Most of them have at least 4 individual skills that they have to verify before they go into the actual into the finals to opt for the meta badge, right? So that's the idea. We have created with the partner a very interesting website. I don't know if it's. Let me see if we can show the website.
Yeah, just have to click one.
Yes. Can you see it? Or let's see.
Yes, now we can see it. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So this is a screenshot of the website, right? So the idea is to attract people by the milestone badge, right? Let's say communication or knowledge building, and they can go in and take very individual courses, right? That's how we're driving the model. Let me show you here the process. All right. I think this is the one that it's the most interesting one right now. So can you see number 13?
Not yet, but perhaps it's coming a bit slow.
It's interesting that audio and video it's working, and just the sharing goes slower.
Yeah. Did you click the 13?
Yes. Yes, I clicked.
Because we can see now that you have basically you are on the 12. So perhaps if you go one more. So the 12 is still a highlight at this moment. Yeah. So if you go one more down.
I know, but in my screen I already clicked like long ago.
Yeah, perhaps you have to click it again. Perhaps I don't know. Okay. Or it's very slow. It can be slow.
It looks well. I'm gonna explain. So the idea is that customers will take the training at the CESG facilities. They chose a presential and presence training system. We're not doing online training, right? We're doing presence training. It's about groups of 25 people at a time. And when the training finishes, what they do is they give them the application link, right? We use applications, OBF applications. They give them the application link. We create badges of application for each group of trained people, right? So they have 3 months after they take their own course. They take their course. They have 3 months to make their application and get their certification, right? So that's how it works. Application goes to us. Validation goes through. We have a team of 3 validators right now, people that actually work on the different areas. And at the end, we issue, right? The idea is that we co-issue with them, and so, it's very important for the human resources people that we talk to that the certification and the training got separated so that they can see the value in certification, right? So in order to make it simple, right, in order to make it more accessible to people, I clicked on number 14, gets there. Every application has pretty much the same structure, right? So the applicant has to provide evidence of their training at the training partner, right? They have to write an essay about the specific thing because of the type of skills we're working with. It's a very short essay, right? It's usually 1 page, and specific evidences for whatever you are working with, right? The idea is that the training will refer to the knowing part of the knowledge, right? So you will get the concepts from the training at CESG, right? The reflexive essay is about being, right? It's about understanding if the person has internalized the content and have actually used it in their lives. And the evidences are to show to the human resources potential hiring person that you're able to do and work with that skill, right? So that's the idea behind it. So by now, we have trained about 30 to 40 trainers. That's where we're at. We're launching to the public right now in February. And we have about 15, 20 people that had already been certified. We have hit a couple of bumps in the road. That's I think where I wanted to talk to you about, because I think that's where we can find the value on the process, right? So the first one, can you see number 16?
Not yet. So I think you have to click it again. But...
Okay. Because this is the interesting one.
It's not yet displayed. So I still see the 15 is highlights.
Okay.
Highlighted, but not the 16. Yeah.
Okay. So we have been working with this partner that does the training, right? It's one of the things that we learned that it's very important is that for educational institutions to understand the separation between training and certification, right? So this is particularly important. Why? Because their trainers, their professors, their staff, they are already accustomed to the idea of having the student or the applicant in present, and they know them, right? So whenever something happens, they go into this dialogue, and all right, they can turn in something late, or they can turn in, they know the background of the person. But when you separate that, right, when you totally separate the training from the certification, the online evaluator, right, the online verification person, he doesn't know the person that is applying. He doesn't know the applicant. So the thing is that he only relies on the evidences, right? And that has been a little bit difficult, not only for the applicants, but for the training partner to understand, right? It's been quite interesting, right? I think by now they learn that, all right, it's only whatever you put in your application, what the reviewer is going to be able to see, right? Okay. So that is one thing that I think if somebody is going to try to implement something like this, please make sure about that they understand that process, right? That's the only thing that they have available. And because teachers and professors, they know their students, right? So that makes a difference. Yeah. The online application versus other evaluation methods. We had a group of, I would say, about 10 applicants that were over 50 years old, right? And online application was a little bit difficult for them. I would say that the Open Batch Factory application mechanism is very simple, but that stands from a point where we use a lot of technology, right? Versus to a 50-plus-year-old person. We could manage around those, but what we did in the end is, since they already went to have training at the specific training partner, they opened a computer area and somebody could help them with their applications. That's how we overcame that one. So that one, it's easier actually to overcome than the understanding about the separation of training and certification. And the other thing that we learned that it's particularly relevant and important is when applications start flowing in, right? We have different people that do the validations and the revisions, right? And how can we get them to for their criteria to converge, right? That's another thing that it's a little bit tricky. We did create very detailed rubrics for the evaluation, yet it was a challenge. So how we overcame this was that every week we had a virtual meeting between the validators, right? So that they can start creating this sense of whatever each criteria meant, right? So that they can synchronize this criteria. I think this is one of the things that we have to consider going down the road, right? How can we make this, because the value of the product is specifically on this, right? That every single batch that it's out there means pretty much the same, right? So that's that. I would say that's one of the most difficult ones, and we only have a couple of evidences, a reflexive essay, and that's all the reviewer has in order to issue the batch, right? So getting them to talk to each other, getting them to review cases together, that will help a lot. I would say those are like the most important things. The one at the top, if you can already see slide 16, 4-day training institution to understand the separation. That's one thing, and which is on the how you deliver the product. That's one side, and the other is on the reviewer's criteria. Reviewer's criteria tends to be difficult. We find out that the platform, Open Batch Factory, worked us pretty well. It was very, very useful. Reviewers, they all work from their home. They all work from their, right? Our business model does it on a case by case, so we pay by each case reviewed. So it's very simple for us. We get the reports from the platform, very easy to pay, very easy for us also to send the bill to the students. So actually the platform helped us a lot. the creation of the forms for the applicants was also very easy, right? We standardize them for this particular product so that each application has 3 evidences that they can bring up, right? One, the certificate of training, the other one being the essay, and the third one being the, what they do is they compile different evidences into, let's say, a single video or a single presentation, something like that. So the application platform at OBF worked for us very well, and that's what we learned. I think it's more about the difficulties for going forwards are more about the understanding of what a batch means, right? That's pretty new in our market. So understanding what a batch means and understanding what an online application for a batch is, right? So those 2 things are atop the most difficult things, but I think we're doing pretty well. We're launching the product to the open public. The university has 14,000 students that they're launching the product to. So I think it's going to be a very interesting year this year, right? In terms of content, I would say that's pretty much what I have. But if you have any questions, please, I can address them.
Thank you very much, Luis, for this very interesting presentation. So, any questions? I think that everyone can basically speak, or you can put your question on the chat. Check.
I'm looking at the chat here.
Participants. So, any question for Luis?
Yes.
So I could start.
Okay.
Sorry, there is a question from Dominique. Can you? Oh, sorry, there is some. I have to mute. Oh.
Yes. Okay. Let me address.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
Sorry, I just mute you by accident. If you could tell it.
Okay. Perfect. Is that okay? Okay. So I'm gonna address Dominique's question. So Dominique is asking, do you see the online application for the batch as a simple process for the learners? This has 2 answers, I would say, right? So there's this group of learners that are like very eager and very motivated in terms of technology and technology orientation, right? So they will go like, all right, our next step is, go into this link and do the process. Very simple, right? But I would say that for, in this particular case, we had a lot of people that were 50 plus, as I was telling. So for 50 plus, it was quite a challenge, right? It was quite a challenge. If you imagine a person 50 plus, where now they went to school in the early 80s, right? No computers, no internet. So for them to have the online application and the certification process separate from the training institution, it's quite an interesting challenge. We have to explain a lot. We created visuals for even that they were putting the training sessions that they could see. Right? It was very important for us to streamline the process and make it visible to them. So when they went into the room, they had like little flyers what they can see. Right? After you finish, take your evidences and log them here. Right? We had difficult things like, all right, if they went, many of them took more than one. Let's say they took more than one course at a time. So what they would do is put the evidence of one in the other one, right? Which is kind of, it's just about I think it stressed them out a little, right? So the solution was to put actually a computer in the place and have someone help them. So, but for younger people, it was quite easy. It was quite easy. I think we had no issue there. So we have an. Thank you, Dominic, for your question. Let me see if we can address the next one. So Andrea's question is, you said the students are attracted by milestone badges. Can they also work on individual sub badges only? Yes, definitely. They can work on individual sub badges. I've seen that there are two types of people. Ones that like to try like bits of many things, right? So they take individual badges, right, on their own, and only when they get all the three of the same meta badge, then milestone badge, then they will get the other one. So, and there are the other ones that go through all of the sub badges individually, but they go through all the same program until they get the milestone. But yeah, we do offer the option, and there are two types of people: ones that go through all the milestone batch at a time, and another ones that pick different things, and they're kind of trying the idea. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Right. Any more questions? Yeah, it's very interesting. Let me see.
Add some comments about your presentation. First of all, I think that your presentation is very interesting because you speak more about the process, learners and the badges, and not about the technology. So, and that's a very important point. It's very interesting to hear how people have been reacting with badges. One point which is often coming, it's this evaluation and examination of badge application. And I think that you raised an interesting point that it's to have, I would say, a policy about using the same criteria for evaluating the same badge application. And I think it's a very good point because it's not related to open badges because it's just a question of evaluation, and evaluation it's in process that you have in many places when you are doing training and learning. But I think that the badges using badges is very interesting because it's raising questions about these things. So badges are great tools just for showing, for example, other people when they are 55-year-olds, it's perhaps the IT technology is not ICT technology, it's a bit tricky. So in one way, badges is a good way to introduce them in this new world. And I think this the question of evaluation is also the second one, which is often raised when using badges.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because for the 50-year-old plus population, not only do they struggle the most, but they also value the most about that the human resource people can actually look at the evidence. They understand the value of that, right? It's like, all right, so when the hiring manager can see me doing this, right, it's better for me. So they can actually really understand that. Yes. Yeah. I actually decided to do the presentation more about the process because I think that's where we learn the more, right? Actually, Open Badge Factory has working very well for us. So it was more than the technology, the issues that rose around the process.
Yeah.
So I have another question from Dominic. He says, if you separate training and certification, could you accept evidences for skills or knowledge for those who haven't undertaken the training? That's where we're going. At this point, we have not, because the partnership with CESG is about them doing the training and we doing the certification. But this is something that we definitely want to explore. I think the criteria synchronization between the validators is going to be more challenging at that stage, right? If we do have different certification, at least right now we know that they have been delivered the content, right? So that's just a very basic level of evaluation, but at least we know that. So we're trying to get there. We haven't been there. Thank you very much for the question. Now from Andreas, who in the collaboration Learntags says is issuer of the badges? It's Learntags. We are the issuers, right? Says do the training, Learntags does the issuing, right? So that the idea is that the certification is clear to both the students and the potential hiring managers, right? And do we work with endorsements? Not yet. No, we haven't gotten to endorsements. That's another thing that we're looking into, as well as the PDF certification. That's also another feature that just recently launched and in Open Batch Factory, and we're exploring for certain employers that are more interested in that also.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I think the Dominic's question is very interesting, and if I can have a comment about that.
Mm-hmm.
Using batch applications with Open Batch Factory, in fact, give you in practical the possibility to recognize prior skills.
Yes.
So you could definitely use, as you have been doing, basically a certification process. You use these batch applications for, in one way, you certify what people have been doing in the training. Basically, it's a kind of, I would say, traditional approach. I have seen some customer project where they basically provide or propose the badge application first. Mm-hmm. And then if the learner feels that he or she can provide the evidence for being certified, so he or she can do it, and then we'll get the badge without to do training. Because
right.
They have the skills. And if they feel that they don't have the skills required by the badge application, then they are directed to training. It's very attractive for companies, for example, because it means that in many cases, first of all, you can recognize prior learning, which is very important to make things visible, I mean, in your company or in your organization. But the other thing that it's basically a good way to save money in one way, that you don't have to train 100% of your staff or of your students, just only the people who really need it. And in one other way, it's also a very good way to motivate people who already know. So if you train someone who already know what you are training him for, it's not motivating him or her. And so with badges, you could basically, I would say, find a new way for saving people from this kind of frustrating forced mandatory training experiences. Yeah, I was just thinking about that, but it's
yeah, definitely. I think that the platform can help us a lot with this, right? I think it was more of how we structured the solution with the partner, right? More than if we can do it technologically. Definitely, we can do it. That is easy for us to do it. But we're partnering with a training institution, right? So that it was more in the business model, right? Yeah. So I think it was more about the business model than either the concept or the technology, right? I think both the concept and the technology can handle it, and it will depend on how we face or present it to the market more than the technology or the thing. The only thing that will worry me a little bit is, again, on how to standardize the criteria for reviewing. That would be the only thing, right? Which is, it could be tricky, but yes.
Yeah, definitely. I think that one of the big questions raised by badges and badge application, it's definitely this assessment question, which is in one way, I've been speaking a lot about using badges for developing basically learning and learning strategies and so on. I think it's something that any organization giving training should basically focus very much on assessment, with badge or without badge anyway. So I think that badges are in this question very important and very interesting.
Yes, definitely. What we found out is also that in this particular case in Guatemala of lack of enough people going to university, being able to validate skills that you have learned throughout your life would be ideal. Yes, we will look into, definitely we will look into it, because it's I think we have a very good environment to test out those ideas. Definitely.
Yeah, this is very interesting, because in the French context, I've been quite much hearing about recognition. You know, in France they speak about badges very much on recognition, open recognition, and so on. And I think that in France and in many other countries, it's clear that there is a need to be recognized. You know, it's not only that the organization is recognizing people because it's formal or it's certification, but I think that the whole open badge movement is basically coming from a need in our society to be recognized, more recognized. And I can see that in many projects, for example, where associations need badges, really for social recognition, for helping people to basically be recognized by employers, even they don't have the diploma, or to be recognized inside their organizations, and so on. So it's, I agree with you that it's there is a great potential.
Yeah, and I think that we got very lucky to find this university that has this branch separated from the school, where they feel that they can test these ideas. Yeah. Because traditional universities find it a little bit, they're a little bit hesitant, right, about many of these ideas, but this particular university having this branch outside where they can feel they can test the ideas, it's been very good for us. So yeah, I think we will be exploring not only these ones, but more ideas about how to recognize people. And yes, people do feel motivated to being recognized, I think. Yeah, I think you're right on that, definitely.
Yeah, perhaps the problem with, I will not say universities, because it's just one example, but with, let's say, organizations which are basically in the business, in the core recognition of things with formal recognition. They have difficulties at the beginning to basically understand that the formal recognition is not enough. You know, it's just saying that we have been doing that years with diploma and with certificates. Why you are speaking about badges? You know, we don't need badges. We have diploma and certification. So it's in one way I understand the reflex, but for example in Finland we have a lot of universities who really understand that okay, there is diploma, there is formal certification, there is a lot of new potential skills that we can basically recognize with badges, and they are a good way to complete, you know, to bring new recognition on the field, on the bigger field of recognition, formal and non-formal. So it's I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm going to add something because this just picked up my brain. We have this Guatemalan university programs are at least 4 years, right? So we have 4 years and 5-year programs. So many of these people have to go to work at the same time that they're studying, right? So having recognitions that are closer to get and that give value to them, it's also an interesting idea, right? Because if not, the alternative is they will keep a very entry-level job, right, until they get their diploma. But the diploma, it's far away, right? It's 4 years down the road. So having a way to recognize this, having these recognitions in the middle of that process, and having access to better opportunities in the job market, I think it's very, very interesting to explore.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Any further questions? I wanted also to say that about the slides number 12, that CSG has done a very good work, and you have done a very good work with communication also, because it's very clearly explained. The badge are well displayed on the page. The page looks very nice, and there is all the information that people need to understand what they are doing. So I would say that it has been really well done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah. I think we got the team contacted a firm that did the communication part, and they did a very good job. Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah. Thank you. So I think that we are at the end of our presentation.
Okay.
If you have any question anymore, there is 2 minutes. Thank you very much. I think that our participants are slowly leaving. So thank you very much, and you will see. And thank you very much for Luis, of course, for this very interesting presentation. And this presentation will be on the OBF Academy site, let's say in 2 days, and please share it. And I think it was a very interesting presentation from Latin America. And thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.